Alright, so it's been a while since I made my last video. Ignore my closet. So, these are my ears. A week before, I gauged to 1-0. Alright. So first things first, what I usually use is vitamin E oil, right here. And then I just kind of like massage my earlobe, kind of like tug at it every little bit. And this kind of stretches your ear. I'm going to be doing this twice a day for a week. Let's go. Okay, so here I am getting started. I decided to lube up my holes before we get going on this wild ride here. So the thing that I always do is I always lube up the taper and I remove the little rubber thing that is kind of like a end, and I was going to use that later on. This is me being a little nervous. I had heard about people taping with a 0G taper and that it was horrible for them and excruciating, so I was like, oh Lord, what am I getting myself into? Thankfully, I didn't really feel much pain for the first part, but it was like towards the big hump that you have to go over that you start to feel that. I'm really good at portraying a poker face when I feel slightly in pain. So I do obviously get frustrated. That's very obvious. I get a little frustrated towards the end here. Most people stretch while listening to music or watching a video or even talking during the stretching process. I just kind of did it in silence. And the reason why was because I felt like I needed to be focused on that and try not to think about the pain during the whole process. And music would have kind of stressed me out from where I have Asperger's, and it's kind of like overstimulating, so to speak. And so I didn't really need that. Right here you can see me sort of pushing it in a little bit. Now you always want to take like a small break before just going fully through. I mean, you don't want to stretch till like, very fast and everything, because I promise you that will hurt. Another thing that I did pretty easy is, I'm sure you saw me stretching it upwards. Maybe you could do that too. It kind of helped made things a little easier. And if you do things at like maybe 2-minute intervals, kind of like how I did here, I actually had soaked my ears in hot water before doing this. And so it felt kind of like I did when I had my doth piercings. And right there is where I am trying to see if I'm bleeding. Now, if you start bleeding during a stretch, you need to stop and just keep staying at the size you're at. Thankfully, I never bled during the whole process. Right here, I'm starting to struggle a little bit. This is where I get at, and I was starting to get a little frustrated because I was like, man, how much further can this thing not go, and all that fun jazz. I started feeling a little bit of pain, but one thing about the stretching is it is painful, but not to the point to where it's like, just flat out excruciating. Plus, you can lube it up a little bit more, so that way, like, in case if, you don't think that it's lubed up enough. I definitely had lubed up mine, but sometimes it needs an extra go. Getting my DOS pierced actually hurt worse. My DOS piercings were like a 10. This wasn't too bad. There's me again, looking to see if I've bled. Also, I just decided to cut the footage because it took like 5 extra minutes, and I just didn't want to pad the runtime with, oh, here's me stretching my right ear. I finally did get it in. It definitely took some time and some frustration and patience, but it overall went really good. I put in the rubber end on the other one to kind of like hold it in place and protect it. Honestly, I was just looking at it out of like disbelief. So there's my other hole. I love showing off my naked holes, so to speak, and I'm really trying to make that sound as innocent as possible. I don't know if I'm doing a good job or not. So I lubed the other one up, and I decided to do the same thing with this one. My left ear, I think, was the easiest one. My left ear, I think, was the easy ear. I don't really know why you have, like, your easy ear or your harder ear. Most of the time, I just took, like, a deep breath and just kind of kept going. And that's one thing that you need to do during this whole process is relax. I know it's painful, but just trust the process and it'll go good. Know your body and its limits, because your body can only take so much, and that depends on what your body has, and you should listen to it. And the more nervous that you get, your muscles will tense up, and everything tenses up, really. So it kind of makes it a little bit harder to kind of push through. There's me again checking to see if there's blood. There still wasn't. So I'm just like trying to go through this, make it easy and less painless as much as I could. I was getting a little bit more frustrated here again. Let's see how I stretch this ear, because I think I did the same thing with the upwards thing. I've noticed that helps a lot more than the average, you just push it in through the side. It kind of adds a little bit more leverage, and it kind of like relaxes your ear a bit more. Again with checking to see if there's blood. One big thing that I did was I just went little by little. Every little bit, you just gotta gently pull your ear and stretch it just ever so gently. And I know it hurts, but it does help with going slow. There was this video I saw on TikTok like a few weeks back, and it was this guy who had like, I want to say it was probably a 4G or 6G. It was somewhere around there, and it was really small. And they took like a 00 taper and just shoved it in. And, oh my word, his ear was purple. It was literally like a grape purple. And I didn't even know how his lobes didn't like rip open. Like, I'm honestly surprised about that. Then that's honestly what I was mostly terrified of. I was so terrified of that, and that I was going to wind up getting like the lobster claw ear, which a lot of people get when their lobes tear, is that lobster claw look. And that's exactly what I was worried about during this whole process, was that. And so that's why I just kept going so slow and so gentle and everything there, because I was so afraid of tearing. One thing you also need to watch out for is a thing called cat butt. I know that sounds funny. Cat butt is actually where your holes are trying to recover from a blowout, and a blowout is where you stretch too fast. And that's exactly what I was afraid of too, was a blowout. And I actually did get a blowout from these. And what I did to fix it was I used warm water and soap. And that seemed to help a lot better than what I thought it would. But it actually went pretty good. The healing process, I think, took about 2 weeks for the most part. And there's me still trying to get it in through the upwards way. Now, I've heard of 1G, and I honestly suggest maybe doing it that way, because it's a lot easier, and it's also half before getting to the full size. I noticed that it's a lot easier doing it that way than the way I did it, because the thing with a 0G taper is you're stretching up 2 centimeters, not just the standard 1 that you were doing. You're going up 2 full centimeters. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but trust me, it is. It's a ton. A lot. So that's why people say to always go slow, because you can lead to a blowout, which leads to cat butt, or you can get what is called the lobster ear, or, forgive me, but the vagina ear. And the reason why it's called that is because it kind of looks like that. And thankfully my ears have never looked that way, thank God. But I did have cat butt there for a while. So once again, I think I tried to cut the video a little bit more because I knew that I was going to take like an extra 5 minutes, because I just kept doing it in, like I said, little few minute intervals. Yep, there's me getting it fully through. Once you get it through the whole, like once it, like, you'll feel it stretch. You'll feel it, and at first it hurts, kind of stings a little. But it then starts feeling a little, I don't want to say good. It just felt a little kind of like this breath of relief, this sigh of relief that you get. And it honestly, it felt really good to like just be able to pull it through and get through there. And that honestly helped. So this is a video on me stretching to 0G. As you can see that, and you can also see my doth piercings. And that is pretty much it. It was a lot easier than I thought.
Okay, so PSA for everybody when it comes to stretching: don't leave the taper in for more than 24 hours. And I've learned that now. So I had an original hole, my first piercing from when I was 12, and I had pierced above it at the very beginning for stretching. Well, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have left the taper in so long, because now my original hole is gone. And that's honestly my fault, because I shouldn't have just, left it in all day long. Also, the reason why my ears are so red is because earlier I was starting to freak out, because I was like, well, what if my original earrings are gone? And so that freaked me out. And so I took an earring and I was just stabbing in all my holes, making sure everything was still there. And I pulled out the tapers and I started bleeding. And the reason why I started bleeding was because, well, I kept stabbing a needle into it. Of course it's going to bleed. So long story short, I was like, you know what? I need to change these out now. I don't need to wait any longer, because I could get infection or could get something pretty bad. And so, yeah, I changed them out. I'm really bummed, because, I mean, those were my first piercings, my first earrings ever, and I'm a little hurt about it. Don't get me wrong. I'm really upset. So I'm trying to look at the positive of things. I'm like, just try to look at the bright side. I mean, it's still there. It's just under here somewhere. But one thing that I need to tell you people mostly about piercings is leave them alone. If you just got a new piercing, don't leave a taper in all day, especially if you're stretching. Don't leave the taper in all day long. I mean, you can leave it in for like a few minutes if you want to, if you feel completely comfortable. But don't leave it in all day like I did, because I think it's because of that I don't have my earring holes anymore. I think they're gone now, forever. And also, don't stab your ears with needles, especially when you got freshly stretched ears, because, yeah, you're going to bleed. And honestly, probably do worse things. I just was like, you know what? I need to just leave it alone. And That's honestly what we need to do with fresh stuff, is leave it alone and just let your body work it out. So, um, overall, the pain of stretching to a 0G wasn't terrible. I I would probably rate it about a 5 or a 6. A 6.5. We'll just say that. So I mean, it wasn't like, excruciatingly painful, but it did hurt. It did. And honestly, I think it's because, I shouldn't have left the tapers in for so long. And I think that's probably what did it. It's one of those things, and I'm trying not to be heartbroken about it. I mean, like I said, my earrings are still there. They're just, non-existent anymore. And, I might, who knows, maybe once I get to my goal size, I'll do something then. But as of right now, I think it's best if I just left it alone and just cleaned it properly, took care of it, took care of them. Yeah. So, with that being said, I will see you guys, and thank you for following me on this little tidbit of a video, because it's definitely something, you know. And who knows, maybe I'll record double zeros. Who knows? I mean, it's untelling with me. But I love you guys. God bless. And remember, this isn't goodbye forever. This is just goodbye for now. Bye.